Hey, how you doing? This is John, and welcome to John's Long Box. I hope everybody's going to come over from the It's Clobbering time. Excuse me. It's 9 o'clock Friday, and I figured what we're going to do now is we're going to have a toast to the patriarchy. So everybody who has their pint glasses, get them out. Even if you don't have your pint glasses, who cares? I got my beer ready, but I'm just going to wait till more people file in. Old Dirty Fatty made it. And this is the invite. Anybody, come on in. This is supposed to be, nerd bar. We're going to talk about comic books. We're going to talk about beer, whatever you want to talk about, the New Year's, things like that. We got Praetor. What's up? So I got everything I need. I got Bud. I'm a cheap beer guy. I always keep beer in my fridge for when people come over. I got hard liquor over there. I've got my Enterprise opener. My beer opener, the Enterprise. I got my pint glass over here. So I'm all ready for people to file in. And remember, here is the link. We got somebody's already started.
Cheers. Can't stay long, so I thought I'd come and raise a glass to the patriarchy.
How you doing? How's everything?
Good. I'm doing yard work today. There's the smoldering ruin of my dreams.
Okay.
Look,
beautiful
doing yard work. How's yourself?
Beautiful weather over there in New Zealand.
Well, summertime.
Yeah,
right.
I know.
So it's our summer. Hang on.
So is it weird to see snow and everything like that for Christmas? Because I know Christmas in the summertime is just freaking me out.
Well, to be honest, so we left the UK when I was little, and then I spent most of my youth in Canada. So I lived near Toronto for a long time. So I'm used to white Christmases. But then I moved here 30 years ago, roughly. And even after 30 years, summertime Christmases I still find very strange. I mean, we had barbecue for Christmas with my wife's family, so that's odd. Hello, Marcus.
I'm back. Hey, RRT.
Cheers.
Oscar, you going to come in?
I like to know what RRTZ is a name, so I don't have to call him RR.
It's my initials.
So Tony Greer, toast. Thank you, Tony. I'm just waiting for more people to show up and see if anybody wants to pop in. So we'll wait a couple minutes. You know what? I'm going to take this moment.
I'm too cheap for a glass. Sorry.
It's okay.
I'm too poor to drink beer, so it's Canada Dry.
Oh, we got the beer. I don't really buy that much beer, but we had it for my son was here, so we had some beer.
I just want to tell people you can still get a pint glass. You know what? I just realized I don't have a tier of just a pint glass. If anybody just wants a pint glass, it's $10. So I mean, if you buy a comic and you just want a pint glass, just send me a note. I paid $10 for a comic, but I just want a pint glass. It's
for all the alcoholic comic book fans.
Yeah. So if anybody just wants a pint glass, and I was just talking to Renzo today. That's one of the things I do. Is talk to like the guys on Friday, all the guys, and he's gonna be. Hey, Fabrizio,
how's it going?
How you doing? Okay. With the name like Fabrizio Aiello, would you be more comfortable drinking wine?
I have good news for Fabrizio.
It's coffee with eggnog and rum. So.
Oh, okay.
I have good news for Fabrizio. I will be purchasing your third issue sometime this week. I got a gift card from work, so it's back in time.
Thank you.
I just backed Zaid. What's the name of his comic?
Phil's comic. Oh, that's a nice looking book. I might look at that.
I just backed that today. I'm so embarrassed. I thought I backed it already.
I don't back everything, as you know, but I had to back. There's
a
few I want to back.
He came on my channel after Indigo, like his Indigo shutdowns. But I thought I backed it, and then he's like, "Yeah, I'm sending out all the books, and I'm waiting for mine." And he's like, "You didn't back it?" I'm like, "Oh."
I want to back Mike Barron's comic about Sherlock Holmes and Nemo.
Yep, I backed that already. I'm easy. If you're on my channel, like as soon as we're done talking, it's like. It's supposed to be the other way around, right? My channel's supposed to generate me income, but like my channel costs me $3 a week. I'm always buying people.
I'm the Destroyer. I might back Crom. I haven't decided yet. I want to back RJ.
Oh,
Yeah, it's
yeah.
like I worked at Barnes and Noble, and we used to get a discount. Every dollar of my paycheck went to like a pile of books every week.
I used to work at an art store for Fabrizio. We got 40% off top price of all the art supplies and all the pens you could, by mistake, take home.
Yeah.
I mean,
By
I'd be at
mistake.
brushes. I had so
I
many.
worked at a comic book store and I got a big discount. And I'm not joking. There would be like, my girlfriend was just like, "Did you take all your pay in comic books again?" I'm like, "Yeah, you got a treat again this week."
I used to
She's
work
like,
at
why
Eurozone.
you
We
even
just
working?
took our comic books. We didn't even bother. We put them out, and I need this issue, this issue. Suddenly, I was buying a lot of DC comics. This issue and this issue.
I missed that working. So I'm gonna put this out here if anybody else wants to join in. So
Worked at the art
Fabrizio,
store
how you
for a
doing?
while.
I'm doing good. I had
How was your
uh,
Christmas?
I
It's
could
good.
decoupage.
lots of family obligations, but those are over. So it's actually feeling like a little bit of a vacation now. So
Are you not at work? You're off for a couple of days?
I'm still off until the end of the year, or until like January 6th. So
I wish Little Christmas.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm working tomorrow. This is like
I
my
work
first
today.
Saturday in years that I'm working.
You have to pile up the overtime, John.
Yeah, I things are going to be booming. They were talking that we're like 610s, guys, 610s, meaning 6 to 10
Oh, it
days.
gets tiring though.
Oh, I mean, the money
I
will
used to,
be
one of
awesome.
the things that kept me from drawing for years. Like I do more drawing now because I do the weekend show and I'm doing the project, and I see guys like Fabrizio, and they encourage. You know, it's so encouraging and inspirational to watch guys draw like that and ink and all that. That I do way more now. But when I was working for the phone company in New York, 9X, if we had Saturdays and Sundays, you couldn't say, it was double time on Saturday after 9 hours.
Oh,
And
Fabrizio,
double time on
put your
Sunday,
link to
and
the
you
private
just
chat so I
say
can
no.
put it in the public chat. For those of you who don't know, Fabrizio has a Horace H. Hoover, a comic that I absolutely love. And if you bought Heroic Tales and you saw that advertisement where some crazy guy stopped Wolf and Batsy from eating people, that's Fabrizio's character. That's Horace H. Hoover.
Yeah, that was so fun seeing that in Heroic Tales, and then the billboard in the back in the one scene was so fun.
So, Fabrizio, are you on board for doing another ad next issue?
Yeah, for sure.
You like the idea I came up with, or do you want to do something different?
No, I like the idea. I have specific things now that I'm kind of mulling over. But yeah, I love the idea. So you said a couple of months. I don't know when's the.
I was just talking before. I was talking with Renzo today, and I said, like, do you think it's feasible to launch the campaign, towards the end of January? And he was like, yeah, sure. So I was like, so let's get a couple of pages done. We'll get them colored, so we can have art to show, and then we'll talk about how long it's going to actually take. Let's be realistic, and then we'll start doing the campaign. And then once we start doing the campaign, I'll have a more legit, realistic time. Like I need it by this time, because I'd like Brian to do an ad too. Brian Bow. I asked him if he'd want to do like a fake Saturday morning cartoons. I'd love to see what twisted cartoons he comes up with.
Oh, God help us all.
That sounds great. Yeah, it's nice getting the books out quickly. You are going to do a good job at it. I'm not doing as good of a job, but, once you have it fresh in your mind, it's like you can't wait for the next issue to come out.
Well, you got a full-time job. You're writing, you're drawing. Like I write my scripts. I'm like 3 scripts ahead.
Yeah.
I'm behind on one script. I'm just torturing myself. And, Oscar's got more. Oscar's going to be drawing one of, Eddie is Doomed. And he was so nice. He's like, John, you got to have more faith in yourself. Me and Renzo have so much faith in you. And I'm constantly doubting myself. He goes, we're 2 professionals and we want to work with you. Go,
That's cool.
That makes you a professional, John. You always call yourself a hobbyist.
Well,
you're still a professional. If you work with they treat you like professionals, you're a professional.
Well, here's my pet peeve. When like in college, guys are like, oh, I'm an artist. I'm like, no, you're not. You're like, other people call you an artist.
But I do that. My
sister
sister calls me an artist, and I go, well, no, I kind of am an artist. Like, well, that's the way you think because you're an artist. I'm like, well, no, I'm an IT guy. It's all pragmatism,
But you know what I mean? Like, I don't get to call
right.
myself a professional. I don't get to call I could say I make comic books, but that's other people. And I don't get to say I make good comics either. Like, you guys get the descriptors.
It was a good comic.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's just
I understand it. I don't know if I ever really am comfortable with people even calling me an artist after all these years. It is a little. I mean, I don't know what else to call it, but yeah, it does feel a little weird sometimes because I'm like, well, it's not my day job. I'm not doing it full time. I'm a programmer. Blah
right.
blah
I
blah.
feel the exact same way. I feel like my grandfather was an artist because he painted oil paintings and all different styles and everything for years. But he had a day job too.
Yeah.
You know, even though he had galleries, you know, he was in galleries.
Oscar pays all his bills in art. You know, he worked for Marvel. He worked for DC. He's working right now for Magma Comics. You know, if you want to say John's Longbox Comics, Oscar, I'm lucky to have a guy of this quality working with me. You know, and I always say working with me. They're not working for me. They're working with me. So I think we got 30 people watching. So here we go. Here's my beer. The Enterprise is gonna.
I got fancy beer.
Tiny bit of
What
rum.
you got, Sapporo?
Yeah, my son likes Japan. He's been to Japan 3 times.
Oh, I should do this on camera. Pouring a beer.
We're lucky it's not against YouTube rules.
There we go. Look at that. Pint glass actually fits an entire beer. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
You know, everybody. There we go. My wife's gonna laugh because she goes, John, you're gonna drink one beer and you're gonna go upstairs and pass out.
Go right to bed.
Yeah, that's what I was afraid I would do if I had a beer or something.
But you got rum in your eggnog?
TNC already went to bed.
Yeah, he messaged me. He says he's having trouble. He's on his phone outside on his lawn. So
that's a difficult.
So here we go to the patriarchy.
To the patriarchy.
The patriarchy.
And to heroic tales and comics.
Just in time.
My I think she's 12 years old. My 12-year-old niece just messaged me out of the blue. I love your comic book, you know, and she's been drawing my characters. She's got to send me a picture. You know, so it's pretty. And then I was telling her about next issue. It's funny because the next issue is Mary Sue, and she's like, "Oh my god!" Like she knew the terms, she knew everything about it. She goes, "Oh, that's so funny. That's so cool."
That's so fun.
Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery.
I'm sorry.
Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery.
Yeah, my son, he's 25, and the best thing that I could say is I could say crowdfunding, and because he's into games, I sent you a couple of the games that he understands crowdfunding at all. He is back Kickstarter games. I didn't have to explain. Like I have to explain to my dad what crowdfunding is. He knew. You know.
Yeah,
what I like is the guys at work are like, "When is issue 2 coming out?" You know, like, what are you gonna do? You know, I told one of the guys, like my apprentice, me and my apprentice been working to just him and I all week, and he knows about like all the plots up to issue 10, and he said issue 5.
Spoilers, mate.
The only spoiler I'm going to give is he goes, issue 5, people are going to be mad at you.
And there's no doubt about that.
Yeah,
it's so hard not to give spoilers sometimes.
I know.
Is that the one where the patriarch leaves his wife for a young man down the street or something?
Yeah. Yeah,
actually,
terrible. Where'd you come up with this, John?
It's a character who's not introduced yet.
Mr. To be named later.
Mr. Not appearing in this film.
Sir, not appearing in this film. Kevin Costner was the player to be named later.
So, oh man, I can't even remember the last time I had a beer. This is actually tasting pretty good. What kind of beer are you drinking, R? I'm just gonna call you.
I'm not. This is Canada Dry Ginger Ale. I found a can in the shop the other day. It's quite rare, so I thought, and I'm doing yard work, so I've got to get back to it in a minute. So I thought
temperature?
Canada, 51st state.
What's the temperature there?
Well, let's have a look.
And don't give me any of the centigrade.
Oh, look at that.
Give me good old-fashioned American Fahrenheit.
So Fahrenheit, I would imagine. So that on paper, it's probably about 75 Fahrenheit.
Wow.
I would say, but maybe close to 80. But the thing, which is not that hot. In Southern Ontario, it gets up into the 90s in summertime.
But more important
thing is, you see that, right?
Yeah, it looks
gorgeous. The incredibly clear blue sky is lovely, but unfortunately the ultraviolet rays here are very, very strong. So the burn time here is very, very short. Like you could probably sit outside for a couple of hours in summertime where you live in New York and not get seriously burnt. here you'd be looking at second-degree burns. So the melanoma is very, very common in New Zealand. So the sun's wonderful, but you can't get too much of it. It's really, really intense, and you feel it. If you're out in the sun long enough, you really feel it. So it's a double-edged sword. And on that note, I'm going to drink to the patriarchy, and then I must get back to my yard worker, or it just won't get done. So the patriarchy.
The patriarchy.
Have a good one.
All the best for you too, John. Take care, guys. Hope you had a great Christmas.
Good New Year.
She just corrected
Yeah,
me.
you too.
My
He's
niece is 6. I'm saying she's 12. She
he
really
sits corrected. God bless, guys.
See ya.
It's little kids are little kids. You know what I mean? My nieces are forever little kids. I don't want them to grow up.
Yeah, there's something about like a kid liking your comic that is just a different thing. I remember when my first issue came out and I had heard a father talk about his son just got the book and he's read it 3 times, and there's just, I don't know, it's different. It's just, it hits differently.
Levi Skin, who is he's on a lot of pops. He said that his kids read my comic and his kids really liked it. And that was, like you said, it was like, oh wow, kids like it, because I'm an old fart, you know what I mean? And it's funny because issue 4, I want to do a lot of the patriarch home life. So he has 7 kids running around, but I don't want to fill it with like kid slang. You know what I mean?
Yes.
that's gonna be rough, you know, because I wrote it out, but I didn't really do the dialogue yet. You know, I just got the plot.
You have to use the word badass.
You know, but the thing is, the patriarch keeps his kids on the farm, so they're like homeschooled, so like they wouldn't be up on them. Skitty bitty bee or shizzle or something like that. I don't even know if shizzle's old. You know what I mean? What would kids be saying?
I mean, the thing is that'll change week to week now. So if you put that in there, it would be so dated. People wouldn't even know what it is.
Yeah, that's one thing. When stuff put dated slang, it really grody to the max. I'm gonna write that in one of the issues. So just so everybody knows, this Sunday I'm going to be doing Horace H. Hoover issue 3 on Sunday Comics. That's Fabrizio's comic.
That's exciting.
There's the guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that Sin City over your shoulder?
Yeah, that's the artist edition of Sin City. It's incredible. The artist editions.
I got to show this. My spinner rack with all heroic tales in it. You know, you got your.
I saw that too.
Yeah.
So cool. Yeah, I was telling my wife, I'm like, yeah, in the middle of the night, 3:00, like we're gonna hear the spinner rack spinning, creaking, you know. Ben's like, yeah, it's a nerd ghost, like reading comics in the middle of the night.
Did you just buy it from Diamond Comics, the distributor?
My wife bought it.
Oh, because I wanted a spinner rack. I was on eBay and they were all like super expensive and rotten looking, you know, like all rusted out and everything. But I saw Diamond Distributors had them. They're like $300, but they wouldn't sell it to me. They would only sell it to stores. So I went to a local comic book store. I told them I wanted one, and the guy was just like, "I'm not going to order you a spinner rack." I was like, "How much is it?" And I paid for it right then and there. And he was like, "All right, it'll be in next month." You know what I mean? That's how. But it's got like ball bearings. It's so quiet, you know. Yeah, I kind of wanted it to creak.
I know. Everyone I ever used creaks, no matter what. It doesn't make a difference.
I was just a little disappointed because it says "Hey Comics." It doesn't say "Hey Kids Comics."
Oh, it is fun though. At first I'm like, am I going to fill it with my own stuff? And then I just did some of my favorites on the one side, and I'm like, yeah, this is fun. And like my current reads. So when I'm going to go pick my latest, instead of keeping a stack next to my bed, I'm just going to go to the spinner rack and grab it. So.
That's what I did. I filled it with all of the stuff that I wanted to read, you know, but I pulled everything out, put it on the stack next to me, and it's just my comics are in it.
You had to buy 3 more spinner racks though. To fill all the comics you get.
You know, make up my own slang. There you go. Yeah. All the acronyms. Yeah, that's it. They'll speak in emojis. Yeah, that would drive me crazy.
I can't believe this. I got this book. We've shown it before.
Yeah,
yeah,
I got that too.
This is sick. look at this. Just any page is like just the
Yeah.
50s work and the artwork in it, the pen work and the brush work. And
You said Al Williamson. We're never going to see
Rosetta and Al Williamson. I just opened it up to a page, and I swear I drew that page on my comic book, which I kind of did. I didn't see it though. Like that's what I wanted to do, like with the old spaceships from the 50s. And it looks old fashioned, but it's so well drawn it fits any time.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's this like old fashioned thing, and to me, it's either dynamic and accurate and cool looking, or
Well,
it's
that's
not.
how I feel. Yeah.
You know what I mean? But people have mentioned that before. It looks old fashioned, it's dated, blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff. I don't know. In my head, I'm like, no, that's.
I've been told that a lot.
Yeah,
If
if I look at a Frazetta drawing, that looks cool to me. It like I don't think it looks quote unquote old fashioned, but a lot of
it's
people.
like for
when
30
I see
years,
Jack Kirby,
30 years ago, they told me I was old fashioned.
Oh, I'm sorry, Marcus.
30 years ago, they told me, well, I had my comic book and we published it. And a retailer would go, well, that's too old school. That's too old fashioned. Like, but that's what I was doing. That was the point. And like, oh, we just roll our eyes, and we just keep on. We kept on going for a few years. It just doesn't matter to us. And then Mike Allred came out, and I'm like, well, what is he doing? It's the same thing. I'm not as good as Mike Allred, but it's like old fashioned, right?
Yeah.
Or there was a bunch of artists by that time. What are you people talking about? I feel it's like the same way in this orbit here. Everybody's back. It's the same thing. They're all back at Image. Like on the previous stream, Matt said, look at Jose Garcia Lopez. Every line meant something.
Right.
Every single line. But we see a lot of comics coming out in this sphere, whatever we want to call it. I'm not going to call it anything. But the ones we're backing, and the people think that are really cool are the ones with all this scratchy. Well drawn maybe, but a lot of mess, and you can't separate the background from the foreground because there's so many lines everywhere before it gets colored. I feel like I'm back in the 90s. Like I'm going to go on this stream tomorrow, and then we're going to draw Cable. Well, we drew Superman last week. I can't complain. But it's always in this stuff. And they go, I've never drawn Superman.
Totally describes his powers.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's why we're doing it. It's kind of a goof. They had that big fight. I said, we're going to do Cable next week. It was my idea. But they want to draw Cable because Rob drew Cable, And I'm like, no, I don't like Rob.
The shoulder pad.
He's a nice guy, and I like his artwork better now than I did then. But as
Logic Finest, I got to say, I love Retro Future. Oh my God, like
I did that
right now.
I did a strip like that.
I stole my Alan Presti is drawing exactly what I want to see right now with Kit Carter. I love that.
Kit Carter
Buck Rogers.
Kit Carter. It's a lot of my. Our story was I was going to draw it like Flash Gordon, except he was going to be muscular like a Marvel character. Like he wasn't going to be Flash Gordon who was thin, athletic.
Oh, I wanted to address.
I was going to draw it straight, and he was going to write a little tongue in cheek, like a little Batman 66. Not completely, but very heroic heroes, beautiful women, awkward situations.
I wanted to address what you were saying about old, like I could look at Jack Kirby. I love Jack Kirby. I everybody who watches me for any amount of times knows I revere Jack Kirby. But if you said he's old fashioned, I'm not going to argue with you. It really is old fashioned. But with Al Williamson to me is like, that's like draftsmanship. That's like what they should be teaching to people. That is like comic books. Like this is what you should aspire to. Al Williamson, like he drew like there's one panel in one of those creepy or eerie's. It's just a horse and carriage going on a road, and you can see a castle in the distance.
And the fact they all were slow artists and they needed help. So you have a little Frank Frazetta in this panel, and you have Angelo Torres in that panel, and George Evans over here. They all worked together. They had a whole group.
And you also have Momentum in this panel over here.
There's my man Rex.
Where's your beer? I don't want to hear any of this. I'm a recovering alcoholic or a teetotaler or anything. Where's your beer? Oh, there we go. Okay.
Minor amounts of rum are acceptable.
Last time I drank rum.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's.
The last time I drank rum, I couldn't untie my shoes, so I literally ripped them off my feet. my friends had to physically wrestle me into my bed, and then I was convinced that I could get back to the party on my own, and I wandered around the streets thinking that the party was down the block, but it was literally like 10 miles away, and I was like wandering the streets with no shoes on, trying to find the party. But that's how bad rum gets me. That was the last time I drank rum. Rum sneaks up on me. You're like, oh wow, it's like candy. It's like candy. It's like candy. Next thing I'm fighting with people. I think I threw a log through somebody's windshield. Rum is bad news.
That's not good. Don't do that.
Doctor,
You would get arrested.
I was hoping Fabrizio could, recommend a good vacuum cleaner. Need to upgrade.
I should do reviews of vacuum cleaners.
You should, like the old
I'm
Kirby.
going to make a comic called Wallace W. Westinghouse.
Well, now he might meet that character in a later book.
Fabrizio, do you have any time frame for issue 4?
Yeah, I'm working on the pencils right now. I'm like finishing the last scene. I think I've given myself a little breathing room. I've done some commissions. I've been doing sculpting recently. I don't want to say I'm taking a break, but I'm just giving myself a little breathing room to do some other artistic stuff, because to me that kind of helps when I jump back into the comic. So
yeah, well,
whatever
recharges your batteries, right?
Yeah, and as long as it's art, I'm okay with that. But I would say March or April for sure.
Oh, cool.
I like the
long.
pulp. I like the pulp feel to some of the artwork that you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I think that we have a question is in this, and is a crowdfunding. What is too long for a book? And I don't think the creators should rush out the book at the same time as wanting to get it done. If you could do 2 issues of Heroic Tales a year, that's fine. Don't rush. It's a money issue. Like Vaughn, and I'm not picking on Vaughn, is going to launch his comic. The next number 2, January 3rd. That's really fast. Like, we need the money to back that comic. Now, I will back that comic. And I think having a little breathing room, the comics forget the price of the comic. Nobody's getting around the shipping. So we need the breathing, the fans need the breathing room to spend the money on the comics. You just have to deliver it when you promise, or within a reasonable time of when you promise.
Right. Reasonable time. And who gets to define reasonable time? The individual.
Right. The individual. No, I'm not discounting not fulfilling. I'm just saying the group here. I'm not arguing with.
Oh, yeah. I know.
If I make a comic and I say it's going to be due in 1.5 years, but that's the date it's due, and it's going to be 120 pages. I'm not Eric. I can't do, or Big Man Comics. I can't do 120 pages in a month. So long as I hit that date, and it's 120 a year and a half. But if you say it's coming in 6 months and then it's a year and a half, without excuse, that's the problem.
That's the problem.
How long it is. It's a problem with expectation.
Right. When you promise a date, that's why I'm talking with Renzo. When could we realistically deliver?
Exactly. You have to. See, I think about this because I started this to learn about how to do it. And the more I watch how to do it, guess what I don't want to do? Crowdfunding comic book. Even though that's what I want to do. For 1, you lose a lot of money. 2, it's really hard to hit the deadlines. 3, I work and I drive like 1,000,000 hours. I didn't get home till 7 o'clock today. Like, what hours am I going to do this? You know what I'm saying? If it's like a 45-page comic or something.
I can't help but be distracted. I'm looking at Rex's room, and that is like the coolest room. And then there's a shower in the back.
I always bring up.
It's just like
serious stuff.
It's just like I'm gonna. I don't know. What do I want to do? Do I want to read Justice Society, or do I want to take a shower?
At least Rex has a shirt on this time. Jeez Louise. The other day he didn't have a shirt on and a tank top. Forget it. It was scary.
I feel like I need shelves of stuff.
It was scary.
Well, look at Marcus over there. It looks like he's in prison.
Yeah. No, this is just the back of the room.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to show the rest of
These 2 bookcases were actually made by my father when I was a boy. So I'm putting them to good use still. Mm-hmm.
Read the Justice Society while taking a shower. Read Aquaman while taking a shower. I'm tired of crowdfunding, to be honest. I've been burned too many times. I'll wait for the book to fulfill. Then I understand that.
Yeah, that makes sense. There's a lot of people. I didn't realize there's a lot of people who wait for the book to be almost done. Well, there's certain stuff I won't back first day.
Right.
There's certain people I'll just wait. I might want to back it. I'll just wait. And the ones I listed, like Mike Barron's book, I'll back him. It depends if I have them or, certain people I know it's going to come out when it's supposed to come out. Like Andy Smith is done. He's done drawing core draft.
Well,
He's
like
got to
this
get lettered and
Graham
colored.
Nolan, Mike Barron, Andy Smith, like these guys to me are instant backs because I trust them.
Well, I know how Andy works, and he's
I'm amazed that I got so many backers. Considering I was a newbie, untried.
You did well. I think you did well. Number of backers, you did well. That's what really counts, right?
I was told that the average YouTuber gets 10% of their subscribers. And I'm almost at 2,000. Well, I'm at 1,500 subscribers, so I only should have had 150 backers, but I got double that. So I can't complain.
Like I'll back Billy Tucci, I guess. I'm not a big She fan, but I might back my first She. But his cons are a little more expensive than the other ones, my feeling wish they were all $5 less. I'm not asking for a knockdown of if you have a big book, $25. I wish it was $20. That's all I ask.
Eric, who are the two creators you have no problems backing? It's just I learned how disorganized I was making my comic, and I did it once, and I did every possible mistake you could come up with, and I think I'm pretty well organized this time around. I think you guys don't know. I ended up being 3 weeks late, which I'm embarrassed by, but
nobody notices 3 weeks. Yeah. Nobody notices 3 weeks, John. 3 weeks, you're within the reasonable amount of time.
Point of pride. It was a point of pride that I was on time.
If you were off in 3 weeks' time, if you were off YouTube, they forget about you. Just about. I mean, it doesn't take long for you to be gone and they forget about you. But 3 weeks off your mark, that's forgivable. Yeah, I've got a question for Fabrizio because some of his comics have been reproduced on. We're talking about price point on comics, right? I mean, if we could get the price point down plus the distribution, because we're kind of railing against shipping, like Marcus said. And Fabrizio, some of your work has been done on pulp paper, right? Some of your early stuff.
Well, the Alterna stuff was, yeah. So that was
Alterna stuff was right,
yeah.
And that's the thing I like about that. But not all the printers do that. In fact, I know Pete went through a long, lengthy process of finding a printer that was actually good that did that still.
Yeah, and he won't share that information. That information is locked.
Got to be a way.
You need a high.
I know, right?
And
yeah,
there's no way I can justify that sort of run on my own. So unfortunately that's not even in the cards for me right now. So we kind of play around with printers. Yeah. We all have our favorites, and I think I still like all the printers that people use, even though they're limited digital runs. Again, I grew up on newsprint.
I know some crowdfunders have used print on demand, and they got maybe 25 backers, but they still had like full covers, and they still fulfilled, and everybody got their books. Even though it may not have funded.
Brian Bow has his graphic novels on Indian Planet print on demand, and I love Brian Bow. I love Wolf and Batsy, but I was hesitant to buy these books because to me print on demand was always inferior. And then I bit the bullet because I love the comics so much. These are awesome. These are high quality. Right. Like print on demand is not what I thought it was. This could drive me nuts. But I had a guy on my channel who has a whole bunch of print on demand comics, and they're beautiful. The only thing that bothers me is there's no more first print, second print. You know what I mean? But the comics themselves are wonderful and beautiful. So
yeah, that's my only drawback with it is because there's two things that you have first appearance of characters, or like the Baxter Builder and Pogo Plane or something related that is like first appearance that drives collectability after the fact. And maybe we as indie creators shouldn't think about collectability, but I think you almost have to, in a way, at least take it into account. Most of us are comic book diehards anyway. And the second thing is first printings are, I mean, not always, right? I mean, there's like Incredible Hulk, Del Keown issue that was released like 2 years after the fact on very limited basis, with a variant color in the cover, using the same cover artwork. The third printing is much more, valuable than the first and second printings, but mostly first printings are worth more. Right? That's been my only thing about print on demand.
So I actually put
first
my
printings traditionally.
first 3 issues on Amazon, which is print on demand. So if nobody has done that, again, the quality is really good. I was really impressed. And what I did is I'm going to differentiate. So single issues are going to be through my website or crowdfunding, and then compiled versions will be on demand on Amazon, where the shipping is free. At that point, if you just want to save money, and I get that, it's an alternative for people, and that's kind of how I see it.
I think if you do like you could do a print on demand, and I think all of us could afford, a certain percentage over printing, and if you print over that, I think even with print on demand, I think to belie any fears like I would have with is it a first printing, second, what is it? Change the cover, change something about it, you don't even have to get new artwork, maybe change the coloring.
I have a bunch of my comics. I have the Renzo comic and I have the Pat Broderick covers, like a bunch of them sitting on that table. So, but if issue 2, I want to have I want to have issue 1 available. So I'm wondering, do I make another cover, for like a second printing cover or something like that, or do I just announce it's a second printing? I don't excuse me. I don't know. That's something I'm going to have to ask people.
Well, look at the facsimile editions. When you get to, if you're
thanks, DC.
If you're doing a facsimile edition of Fantastic Four #1, everybody's going to know. I know I've talked to comic book dealers, and they're like people try and bring the giant size treasury reprint of Action Comics #1 and say, this is worth a lot of money without the cover on it, obviously. It's like, yeah, you don't know that much about comics. But when you get to like the first appearance of Miles Morales, and I have that in my collection because I didn't have an original, and in very small print, it says facsimile edition. It has the ads in it, and it's a modern day, probably printed on the same stock paper. So it can fool somebody if you don't look closely.
Oh, did you ever read that comic? It was Chester Brown, and it was a fantagraphic book, and that was the whole premise. Is he's a little kid, and he wants to get all the comic books that he wants. He finds out that there's like this weird place where like women change their clothes before getting showers. So he tells another kid about it, and the other kid's like, if you show me where that is, I'll give you my Superman #1. And of course, Chester Brown's like,
this can't go well.
Does he know how much that's worth? Like he doesn't even care about the naked ladies, and these are teenage boys. So this shows you how important it is. So he tells them about it, and he goes, remember, if you see any naked ladies, you're going to give me your comic. So he takes them to this place, and it's like a I don't know, like a woman's spa, something like that. And they're looking between the slots, and they see the naked ladies taking showers. He's like, oh yeah, okay. So after a little while, he's like, give me my comic. So he gives him Action Comics #1, and Chester Brown's just like, oh my God, this is worth the fortune. Oh my God. And he goes, oh, I forgot to give you the cover. And he's like, what are you talking about, the cover? And he went and he got the cover. And it was just like facsimile edition, at 23. And he was just like, I'll never forget that story. Where, I remember a friend of mine had a Justice League #1 just in a box in his basement, in his musty old basement. It was all beat up. And I was always like, can I have this? Like, it's not worth anything. It's beat up. Like, meanwhile, I knew it was worth something. It was Justice League #1. You know, he's like, no, it's my
Mhm.
dad. You know, Dad still lives in that house. I'd like to go knock on his door. Can I see that old box of old? I think he had the first.
Worthless comics.
You probably get it. You probably get it. Get rid of that box.
Smokey the Concat says, I would not do a second cover unless you sell out of your originals. That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking too. You know, I'm trying to streamline costs.
I bought a convention edition of Inglorious Rex 1 because I didn't care. And that was at like the regular price and with a different cover. That was pretty fair.
What was it? What cover? I was reading
Inglorious Rex 1 because I didn't buy Inglorious Rex 1 and I bought it.
Well, hopefully
I bought it off Shane's website with the Tampa Bay Comic Con cover.
Hopefully you do more than break even, right? Because you probably want to crowdfund a second time, and you got to have a little bit left in the kitty to get you started for a second book, unless you do a lot of the legwork and the art and stuff.
So Logic Finest asked a really good question. He always does. Question for the panel: with crowdfunding, is the goal to make comics on a regular basis like the big two, or is it just to make books as the creator is able to? I would like to make comics on a regular basis. Now, what is that regular basis? That's for the individual to decide. I would hope that someday in the future I can make 3 comics a year. Now, that doesn't mean 3 issues of Heroic Tales because Renzo could only work so fast. You know, but I already have a side comic that I'm working on, and I have an idea for.
But right, that's what I'm talking about. 3 issues a year. If you think you can do that, or the people you work with, you can work with being a writer. You can do two couple at once. But if you're doing it all yourself, like Fabrizio, that would be very difficult to do.
Yeah.
But I can't afford to lay out all the money. You know,
right. It's more of a money thing than a labor issue.
I don't think I'm being, angry or whatever.
Thunder, yeah, that's a great
point. It cost me $10,000 to make Heroic Tales #1, and that's with a lot of mistakes and doing things that I shouldn't have done, and being extravagant and hiring expensive, legendary comic book artists to do covers. And I took in almost $9,000. You know what I mean? I can't afford to do that a lot.
I think that the next. I know you're going to do a variant cover, but I think you have to figure out if you want to do who would do your variant cover, who would bring in a few more fans. Like that's the idea of the variant cover, and I think I'm not sure like Michael T. Gilbert. I know who he is.
I know, yeah,
he's a legend. But who else of the people that are 10 years younger than me that I'm talking to online know? And it wasn't a problem with Broderick because they did know he worked from.
Yeah, the Broderick cover sold pretty well, but
then nobody really knows. I know Gustovich, and I said, well, not that many people know Mike Gustovich. And I was talking to my friend Rich Stonky, and he goes, well, I know Mike Gustovich, yeah, but he's the same as us. He's buying and drawing comics, right? So who of these fans out there that are in your chat know, people get Rini covers, that type of thing, because they think that's going to draw other people in because he's such a popular creator.
I already got the variant covers done. And I got Josh Howard, who does Dead 17.
See, I think Josh is a good idea.
And I got Jose Garcia, not Lopez, Jose Garcia, who does Infinity.
I wonder how much Jose Garcia Lopez would cost for it.
So I got that, and I don't think I'm telling tales out of. They weren't as expensive as these legendary.
But they're popular. But they're popular independent creators who've done covers for other things that you've backed in this sphere of whatever this is.
I'm gonna have 2 versions of my comic.
Speargate, I'm gonna call
Renzo's doing both covers because it's gonna be a flip book, and then the other one's gonna have Josh Howard and Jose Garcia flip book.
Yeah, just a little bit of name recognition that kind of bubbles up. I think makes a big difference. Even if somebody isn't, I mean, to be honest, I'm a little younger, so a lot of the names you guys throw around, I don't know those artists. Sometimes I just know them in passing, but they're not like the ones that I grew up with.
Right. So
my goal was, I launched on Fund My Comic. I wanted to have the Renzo cover as the standard cover, and then I wanted Fund My Comic, Kickstarter, and Indiegogo to have their own variant covers, and I realized that was a misstep. That I'm not going to copy.
Well, isn't a bad idea, though. I wouldn't have thought of it.
It wasn't a bad idea, but
it was.
But are you looking at it this way? Because I was thinking, oh wow, each format has its own cover. Everybody wants. But are you going to spend $30 in shipping?
Well, that's the issue.
That's what
But your comic wasn't that expensive. You could afford the shipping on that book. Like
Right.
I find the books that are
I
even
just saw.
$5 less, like
I
that
just-
25
I just
to
saw
20
Marcus's
20 makes a big difference.
blood pressure rise. When you said $30, I saw Marcus's blood pressure. just
I will
kinda
say
go up
my
there.
mind.
No, I
has-
got all this. I backed the whole
Wow.
thing.
My mind has been changed about homage
Yeah,
covers.
yeah.
Like Brian's homage covers were really fun, and that actually got me to buy, I think, a book that I might not have bought extra copies of. As long as as long as you're familiar with the homage, that's the kicker there, and it's not too overdone. It's sort of like this sweet middle ground of people are familiar with it, but it's not been overdone. But so I might do something like that in the future.
See, I don't mind homage covers as long as it's not like that Wolverine fighting the Hulk that you've seen 80 million
Well,
times.
Exactly.
Like if you did a Sector's homage cover,
Yes.
Well, on Cordrath 2, I backed the homage cover this time. I didn't back the homage cover the first time, but it was of Conan 2. It's kind of like fits the whole thing, but that's a straight homage cover.
Let me ask you. Let me ask you something. Marcus, it's like I kind of like tribute and homage covers, especially if you say after Kirby or after
Right.
the original artist, Barry Windsor Smith. But and I think they're fun and they have their place, but I think they're also overdone too, or abused, aren't we trying to break away from like the Marvel and DC thing? Empire Comics,
Well, it
Aaron
depends who
Lopresti
you-
does like the Ditko box, the Marvel Comics group, instead it says Empire on it. I would like to see us be a little bit more original within the indies.
They all have a choice
on a
of
regular
so
basis.
many different covers that you don't have to back that cover. It's not like one of two or the only one.
Mhm.
Like there's 5 other. I think there's too many covers.
Right.
There's 5 other covers that he'll do a wraparound. Lopresti do a wraparound. He somehow does a Marvel box cover from the 70s. One was a Neil Adams homage. These other ones aren't all homages. They're just that style. And then, he brings somebody else in to do but I think it's like Chris Stevens, but nobody knows who Chris Stevens is. It's just, this is a really cool cover. Am I going to get it? And then Andy has like 5 different covers. So there is a choice. If you don't like that, you don't have to buy it. But if it's the only choice or one of two, I think I agree with you.
well, that brings us to this question by Logic Finance. Question for the panel: would it be better financial sense to only offer 2 covers until you're at a place financially to justify? Absolutely, that's what I'm doing. If I'm doing $60,000 a comic, yeah, I'll get Mark Allered to do a cover. I approached Mark Allered, and he actually gave me a reduced price because we got along on our conversation, but I still couldn't justify it. I mean, it was affordable, but I just couldn't justify. But I would love a Mark Allered cover. I love his art, and I even said I want Laura to color it. And he was like, yeah, we had so much fun. This is the price. And I was like, I'm sorry, I just can't. He's like, that's cool. But I would love to. But I got to be realistic. I'm a newbie. I'm selling less than 500 comics. I got to keep expenses
I think
low.
Mike Allred is, that would, you got to decide whether the guest cover is worth it. Is it going to sell enough? I mean, think about why they do, why would you have a guest cover if it's going to sell enough,
I'm old school. I'm not a fan of variant cover. Me neither. I usually back the A cover. The Brian Bowes Wolf and Batsy campaign was one of the few campaigns that I bought all the covers.
But
because just first off, I love his art. Second off, I love Brian. And third off, I love Wolf and Batsy.
But they're doing, but if you're crowdfunding, you're doing the variant cover for the opposite reason that DC and Marvel or IDW is doing the variant cover. You're doing that cover to sell more comics. You're not doing a Midtown version that's one of 100 and you're trying to get some whale to buy it all. I mean, that's kind of the idea, but you're just trying to offer another thing that you might be able to afford. I don't think there's I don't think you have like evil in your heart say,
No.
do a variant cover.
Yeah, I agree. It's just another way of offering another product without doing a completely different comic. So I do think you're right. It's a different reason why we would offer alternate covers. We want to give more options, not because we're trying to extract as much money from the same people over and over. At least that's kind of how I see it.
If you can do like my back cover, I'm using on two of my books, the John Dillard main cover and the Golden Age cover, the original coloring of Devil Flyer's costume. I'm coloring the same artwork different on both, the same image on the back cover, but coloring it different, the costume in two different colors to reflect the main cover, you know, so you can get creative and reuse artwork in different ways, or flop images. You just really have to think about all of it, right? About being conservative.
The way I think, I want to have one cover, you know, and that's it. So I might even do away with variant covers in the future.
Oh, that's
I'm being a little bit not militarist, mercenary. Like I'm sorry, guys, but you know,
you have to sell your comic.
I mean, comics of my comics, because I gotta break even.
You have to sell your comic. You know, ultimately, you have to be a little mercenary. I mean, that's how I feel. I mean, I'm the one who hasn't made a comic. You three guys all made a comic. What do I know? You know, I just have these.
You want a cheap variant cover? Do a sketch cover with just the logo.
I do a cheap cover.
I'll do, you know, if you're an artist,
you guys see my art.
if you're an artist, you know, you can. The way I'm going to do it is I'm going to overprint a few on the sketch cover and actually draw on those wraparound covers, and then mine's going to be magazine size, so there's going to be plenty of space for doing some epic, you know, covers, and then sell those on the second campaign as first printings, but with original artwork covers on the covers. You know, you got to do creative things like that, you know, if you're able to. If you're not an artist, of course, you might have to hire an artist to do something.
One thing I will not be doing is
farm out,
because this was just a logistical nightmare to get them shipped to me, and then
these are awesome.
To me, I don't think it's necessary. I think it's great when like Justin Belmont goes out and gets a Don Perlin cover made, or you get a Pat Broderick.
I'm so jealous. I love Don Perlin. And I was like, "Can you talk to him? Can you get a cover?"
You know,
oh, he just died.
Yeah, Bob Layton inked that thing too.
We got, if it's only a money thing, then yeah, maybe you want to do that. But we've got plenty of talent, like Marcus, our friend over here. I love his pulp noir feeling covers on his book. There's a lot of talent within this sphere for people to knock it out of the park and do some awesome. I think you need to have a concept of what you want on a cover. I don't think you should totally leave it up to the artist.
No,
give them breathing room to work, but you know, have some idea about what you want.
I recently did a cover for Unbreakable Argonauts. Ashley, he knew exactly what he wanted. He described it all really well. And then I did the sketch, and the sketch was kind of twisted to the right, and I wanted to center it. But I sent him the sketch anyway. This is what I'm working. He goes, "That's perfect. Leave it." I'm like, "Oh, good." I'm not, okay. But that's what he wanted. He was very specific. I added some stuff. No, take that out. Add this. And yeah, if he had a really good idea.
Fabrizio, I don't know if am I the first person that you ever worked for lack of a better term?
In comics?
Yeah.
I mean, if we want to go back 20 years, but outside of like my initial foray into comics, yeah, I would say, yeah, that's like the first non-horror stuff that I've done that I did. Yeah, which was a lot of. I mean, the horror is involved.
I loved it. I loved it. It was so much fun.
Yeah, I did some commissions recently that are very non-Horus related, and it was a lot of fun. I don't want to say I forgot how to draw other things, but you just get so focused on this one project. Everything you do is all Horus, that just making yourself think about something else was so much fun.
Well,
so
I mean, it's no secret. If Eddie is Doomed does well, I want to do a sequel to it because Eddie is Doomed is going to have a, it's about a comic book collector whose childhood is destroyed because the continuity that he loves is being wiped out by a Crisis on Infinite Earths type story, and he can't deal with it. So I'm going to have those superheroes, and I want to do their stories. I want to have Golden Age stories, I want to have. So I want to hire a lot of artists like Fabrizio to do a story, Marcus to do a story, DC Miller over here. I want him. I love his artwork.
His stuff is great.
So I just would think that would be so, but that is going to be a project to manage. You know what I mean? Like I got the top 10, so that's 20 different artists. I got to.
Yeah,
Brian already called Big Brother the eyeball character.
Well, you have cats, John. It's like
when you crowdfund, you can get to go back to the covers. You can do like one cover, but then later on down the line, you might want to put that in your local comic book shops. So I would love do another to get my comic in a comic shop
at some point. That to me, that's.
I don't really think it's that difficult.
See, I don't know how to do it. I was also thinking about getting my YouTube channel on Spotify. These are things I'd like to do. I don't know how to do it. There was something else I wanted to ask people. If any, now I can't remember, but I'll remember. I'll remember 10 minutes after I turn off the video.
Speaking of comic book, getting your book into a comic book shop. So I've only tried twice, and this is when I was still with Alterna. I went into 2 different comic book shops, and I frequented these places a lot. Even though they never spoke to me. It's one of those deals where I was there, but nobody ever actually spoke to me, so they didn't know who I was. But I went up to them like, hey, would you carry a book? It's from Alterna. And the look on their face was just unequivocally no. Get out of here. I don't know who you are. Just don't get me. So ever since then, I've been a little reticent to approach shops. I don't know if those were one-off, instances.
Well, I mean, I can only say at my local comic book shop, they're very supportive, and they're like, "Oh, when you get it, we absolutely want to carry it." So it's right the opposite.
You could do a signing.
Yeah.
See, my problem is,
in fact,
my
they
local
suggest
store that I went to for 20 years is closed. And I barely know these people over here. So I'm gonna walk in as a crazy person with a $10 comic book. They're gonna tell me to get out of here.
Yeah.
I'd like to do conventions.
Again,
I would love
price point really matters. I think
I would love for all of us to do like a Super Friends convention, like me, Fabrizio, Brian, and we all just get one table together, and take. You need to go to the bathroom. I'm at the booth selling Horace H. Hoover. You know what I mean?
That'd be amazing. We could do like temporary compilations, like 3 books, like all first issues.
I'm the official
starter packs or something like that.
Yeah, we're all going to Marcus's house for.
I don't have a house. I just have a 2-bedroom apartment. I used to have a house. I sold it when my kids went to college.
Where do you live, Marcus?
I live in North Carolina, Charlotte.
Okay.
I was in New York till 2008. And I had a house there.
We could just meet in the swamp like Legion of Doom.
I have a house right now. But I was the official seat filler at Heroes Con for Dan, Fraga, Bill Tucci, PTP. They were all across from each other. They're like Andy. Not as much.
Did PTP have his baby yet?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
He was a nice guy.
Yeah. He invited my buddy Mike to his wedding.
Yeah, PTP was a nice guy. But whatever. They were, I was the official seat filler, which was good because if you're hanging out with these guys, you're on your feet at those conventions. Oh my God, this concrete floor.
One thing I wanted to talk about since anybody would reflect on the new year, man, did I have a rough year? Holy mackerel! I've been priding myself that I've never been in the hospital, and then this year, hospital twice. In February, I went in for a hernia surgery, and I had 6 hernias, and that was crazy. Oh my God, that was excruciating for about 3 days, and then all of a sudden I was fine again. And then in July, everybody knows I got into a car accident. The doctors think it's my blood sugar. Just if I don't eat on a hot, sweaty day, I just got tunnel vision and crashed into a tree. It was a lot of fun. Literally broke my neck, out of work for 4 months, used up all my savings, you know. And I got to tell you, I had $7,000 in my bank account from my freaking, fund my comic and Kickstarter, and the mortgage was coming the 15th of every month. And I'm like, I got to pay the mortgage. I got to.
Yeah.
But I can't touch this. Oh my God! It was like
we should all make escrow
the devil and
accounts.
the angel over
Officially
here.
escrow accounts,
Yeah.
like a lawyer.
But I mean, when I think about the people that you've interviewed this year, I Tom DeFalco, Walt Simonson. I mean, like it's absolutely incredible.
That's what I'm saying. I had the best year of my life and the worst year of my life in the same year.
You released a comic. I mean, man.
Every year, if I stay out of the hospital, it's an accomplishment. After being in hospital and rehabbing for 7 months, after being in the hospital, I was pulled off a pole once, 10 feet, running a drop wire. It got hooked on a bush. Where near me, it was near the ground. So when I looked down, it was on the ground. But closer up, it wasn't. The lady was backing down her thing, and I was just climbing. You know how climbing up the pole with a ladder. I'm about to just put my belt on across because I always do everything safe. She pulled me right off. Never fall 10, 11 feet onto asphalt. My wrist shattered my drawing wrist. This still bothers me when I draw, and broke my leg and thought I shattered my hips. I couldn't move for months.
I'm at that age where I could
Wow.
take a wrong step and I'm hurt for a week.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so if I stay, and then I had COVID and almost died of COVID. So
yeah, you and Luke Stone, holy man.
Yeah, I had a similar story. Luke Stone had it worse, but it's a similar to Luke Stone.
Yeah. COVID. I had
My
COVID.
sister just got over it. She was bitten by a brown recluse.
Oh,
Then
that's bad.
Got into some fire ants on her legs, and then she got an infection, and then she got COVID, and then she got the flu. So it's
you must
one
be in the
thing
South.
after the other. Yeah, I'm in Arkansas.
That is my
Recluse is
phobia.
really
Arkansas,
bad.
A
Recluse
brown
really,
recluse.
that's bad.
Oh,
Yeah, and the next thing is you're gonna tell me is that your sister got carried away by a big buzzard.
I know.
I have.
Brown recluse,
That's
they have to
probably
take
possible.
care of it right away.
I mean, I have a really aggressive light switch that if I do it just right, it hits and it kind of hurts my fingers.
My wrist
I don't
bothers
know.
me now.
That's the.
So if I stay out of a major hospital, and both of these things happen to me during the holidays, I feel good. It's good year. I stayed out of the hospital.
I look at Fabrizio and I just picture like as soon as the camera goes off, he puts on a beret, and him and his wife got long stemmed cigarettes, and they're just like, yo, and they just got like bebopping around the house. I want to live the Fabrizio life.
I think he's starring in a movie.
I
That's
do
what
talk
think.
about like Bukowski sometimes, late at night. So
Yeah, you and your wife just sitting in the bed with an ashtray in between you, just talking about French films and jazz. As you just hear like annoying jazz, like just yo, daddy-o.
John, I gotta ask you, do you have a spinner rack there somewhere? Surely you do.
Oh, I have a spinner rack.
sure does.
Look at that.
There you go.
There you go. Yeah. Of course I got a spinner rack.
I've got to get my two. I've got to get my two out of storage. Randy Zimmerman actually. Randy actually said that
was
I
like
had a kind of a rare one.
My wife
Yeah,
was
you
like,
gotta have a
she
spinner
saw me
rack.
putting it together, and she's like, of course. That that was the last, like in the Big Lebowski, it ties the room together.
It ties the room together. That's funny.
It is very satisfying to see your comic book in a spinner rack, though, right, Fabrizio?
It sure
Oh, yeah.
is. I mean, yeah. Like if I died tomorrow, I did a thing, like a few things where there's a piece of me left that isn't graffiti on some wall I did as a kid or like some like horrible thing. It's actually a productive thing.
Yeah, if I die tomorrow, my wife's got to deal with stacks of comic books on the table over there. She's like, "Now what do I?"
Yeah.
Yeah, but what a great feeling, right, John, to actually hold that book in your hand for the very first time,
it is
or
cool.
that proof, or just the proof. Yeah,
I tell you,
it's a dream of a
was like
lifetime.
pages. It you write the script and it's fun. Like, oh cool, I wrote a comic book script, and then to have like an artist like Renzo send you like, he does like pencil outlines. Is this cool? Yeah, ink it, and then you see that, and then Daniel or Oscar colors it. That's cool. But you know what? I didn't realize Bill Williams is my letterer. All of a sudden, when he lettered it, that was like the coolest. Like, oh, it's a comic book now. It's a comic book now. It's lettered. And then I got the physical proofs. But I tell you, the physical proofs were cool. But I was so nervous, and I was like going through them with a fine tooth, looking for mistakes. It wasn't something that I enjoyed. Once I got them, like, this is the comic book that I'm going to mail out to people. That was the coolest. But the first is seeing your pages lettered, because I don't know what order you do it, but it's pencils, coloring, then lettering for me. That's it. It's a comic book at that point. But that is nerve-wracking because I'm a terrible speller. I'm like, Bill, please correct my spelling. But
Yeah, I think proofing honestly is the one thing that is, I don't want to say the hardest, but you can look at the same word 1,000 times and still miss it. I think everybody does it. It doesn't make a difference.
Are you kidding me? I proofed it. And then I got the comic. My wife opens it up and goes, oh, look, there's a typo on page 1. I'm like, damn it. How did I miss that?
Yeah, I worked at this advertising agency, and
Marvel. I'm
No,
sorry.
go ahead. I was just saying we had a
Marvel had some typos on covers.
Right. Thor with 2 R's.
Yeah, it's just, I honestly feel like if I read a comic book with like one typo or a misspelling, I don't think it would pull you out potentially. But if you have multiple ones where you notice it, I think that would honestly kind of ruin the whole experience.
I noticed 2 typos in my comic. One of them people noticed. The other one, nobody has said that they noticed yet. So
I don't. I have to read it again. Now I'm going to do it with a fine-tooth comb.
I mean, I've read that several times, as you know. I didn't notice it.
Yeah, but I have an editor in mind because I had my friends edit it, but now I have a professional that I'm going to talk to about reading it because
I'd say get as many eyes on it as you can, a half dozen eyes,
Yeah.
So I don't want to go negative over here, but like one of the things, like we were talking earlier about like how long is too long for a comic, and I said that's up to the individual. But one of the things that is unforgivable is busting on other people and then putting out a crappy comic. You know what I mean?
That's relative as well, though. If you don't think it's a crappy comic.
Well, I'm going to say something because I had 2 beers that I probably shouldn't say, but your boy Zach, like, oh, your comic looks like it came out on time. Your comic looks like it came out.
Oh, the boy Zach, yeah.
And then you put out Jawbreakers, the newest issue that is just an unreadable piece of crap.
I never backed up Zach books, so I don't know. I know that there's the original Legendary Jawbreakers, but he doesn't have the same artist, right? I don't know who does
the original Jawbreakers was fine, I had no problem. But the newest one, I was done reading it, and I'm like, what the hell? Who were the name of the characters? What was I knew the names of the Jawbreakers, but what happened with the bad guy?
I don't know. I know his books are late. He had a lot of late books, and not because his artists and writers were
but
late.
if you're bragging that it's 2 years late and it's going to be perfect, it better be damn perfect. Like bragging that writers are a dime a dozen and then writing a indecipherable mess. Like the guys at work, they don't realize it, but they're part of an experiment because these guys I work with, they're not comic book people. They're just going to read my comic book because they bought it from a buddy. So I've been asking them, did it make sense? At any point were you confused? Like whether you liked it or not, that's important. Right.
To ask people who don't read comics.
Yeah.
Right. That's important. I do think so.
So far, even the one bad review that I got, the bad review person said that they understood my comic and it made sense.
But that, you know what, that review, I saw that review live and then I saw it again. and it wasn't based on bad quality of the comic.
Right.
It was.
It wasn't because your writing was bad. It wasn't because the art was bad. It was something because she expected something different than was in the comic, which was, it's not her fault, but you didn't sell the comic that way. You didn't sell an all ages comic. You just sold the comic.
Well, I did sell an all ages comic, and to me, it was an all ages
Right,
comic.
but that's not your fault. It wasn't on the quality of stuff. I mean,
Right. So that's why
and
I
she
still look
said
at
she
her
was
review as a mostly positive review.
And then she said she admits that she's not somebody who read a lot of comics either.
Right.
So that was really fair. So, you know, and like everybody started saying, oh, this was really negative.
Yeah,
But it was all right. And she comes into your chats now anyway, so you're all good.
So I look at this. First off, we're cool. I got no problems with that. You know,
Right. That's what I mean. I mean,
like in the 80s, we forget how edgy comic books were. Even
right, she didn't read those
Exactly.
comics.
you know,
The 70s comics were edgy.
Yeah,
Look, this is a
yeah.
comic
So
anybody
like
can buy.
her expectations were really skewed.
This is a comic that anybody could buy. My son gets me for Christmas
right.
Yeah.
a comic. You know,
I
and
bet
it's
you
a
somebody
beat-up
gets
version of-
beheaded in that
That's
comic.
a
You
nice
know, this is a comic any
Yeah.
kid could buy from 6 to 16.
Look at that cover.
Yeah, I was just looking at it. You're like, well, let's not do a homage cover. I'm like,
You okay,
wow, I'd like
cover.
to homage this cover. I'd like to find a way to
Yeah.
homage this cover.
Bye
Look
bye,
at
Oscar.
this.
I hope to
Werewolf
have
by
that
Night
picture
looks
to you
like
real
he's-
soon. I'm
Werewolf
being
by Night
Everybody
looks
could
like
buy
he's
this Dracula. I mean,
Yeah.
and like, what was I reading? I read a couple of comic blogs that about the comics that I grew up in, and they're like, and it was the first issue of Captain America that Frank Robbins did. Everybody hated it, but in there, the Viper just shoots police officers down dead, and nobody says anything twice about it. They're dead.
right.
And this is a Captain
Yeah.
America comic. It isn't. They're not protecting a child. Then this is what they do.
Read any Punisher comic from the 80s if you want to get shocked.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
didn't Gail Simone make a big
Yeah.
deal
I
about
mean, people were
It's-
dying. That was in Captain America. You know, like Steve Englehart wrote some complicated, you know, adult, mature comics.
It-
That
yeah.
Steve Englehart
you
had
read if you're a little
president
kid, and
commit
you can read if you're a
suicide.
college student.
Yeah, it wasn't G.I. Joe the cartoon where nobody ever got shot or
Right.
hurt. I mean, yeah, her expectations are just way off, I think.
Right. Like I said, the main thing was she
how
understood it.
often on a crowdfunding project should you keep people updated?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I think that Lepresti and Nolan do it once a month almost.
Once
They
a
don't
month
even
at
have to
minimum,
when they update it.
once a month at minimum, but I also don't read
Mhm.
the updates. I back
Well-
your book, you know, and when it shows up, it shows
I think
up.
a lot of people do that. I think that one of the mistakes that people have done, and we talked about this on other streams, is that they update it while they're on a stream. Like somebody will update, like Dan will update it on the professionals, but not
Mhm.
everybody who backed his book, and he's
Yeah.
got a lot of backers, right? Has
Mhm.
watches the professionals. You got to put it in you got to update. If you, that's the other thing about crowdfunding too. You have to expect if you have a medical problem, you got to tell your backers.
I had
Like,
one
he
of my
had
personal
major
friends-
medical problems and problems with his house or problems with, and he didn't tell. Oh, I know it, and so it's okay. Stan's a great guy, but we don't know. Or even RT Bear, this one is not going to be late. The other one's late. He has back problems. Well, he's not updating. He doesn't want to tell people about his back. Well, you kind of have to. You kind
One
of
of my
have to.
personal friends posted in Kickstarter, "Where's the book?" Because I said it was going to be until November, and I'm like, "Dude, you could have just called me."
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, don't put it in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean-
but I understand. You paid. This guy paid $40 for a freaking comic book. He owed information.
I
That's
mean,
the way
but
I look
printing
at it.
issues are going to be the issue. Like, this is too. No, you're not going to tell somebody that you're going through a bad divorce or something, but there's got to be a way. You have to let them know because that's the issue. They have to know.
Well, let me ask then. How late is too late?
I think a year without updates are too late. But I don't care either. I'm like you, John. The book comes when it comes. You know,
Yeah.
I don't realize it's late. One day it's a Saturday morning. I'm looking at this back guy.
It's funny because people like I'm going to say names because I've been drinking but like Mandy Summers with Gemshock.
That's
didn't
late,
realize-
right? I didn't
didn't-
back it, so I don't focus on it.
I didn't know. I forgot that I backed it.
That's like 2 years, right?
And I'm like, I don't care. It's none of my business. I'm like, oh, I backed it.
Yeah, part of that scale though. Part of it's
I
like
do
what
that
did you
too.
do? We
I
hired
forget.
Del Keown, you know.
I forget. Yeah, I want at least reasonable updates that let me know that it is coming at some point time in the future, and you haven't just pushed this off. But to me, like, I don't know, it's more than 6 months. I think is really pushing
I don't,
it.
yeah.
A year, I think, is like, okay, I'm writing. After a year, I'm writing it off. Honestly,
Right. I back a lot of board games, and I don't know if anybody back board games, but
My son does.
board games can be 5 years late.
Well, he hasn't had that problem, but he knows that there's a board game that's supposed to come with the almanac, and the almanac's like a couple of years late.
Like I'll get a box, and my wife's like, "You got this big heavy box. It's got to be a board game." And I'm like, "What board game did I buy?" And then I open up. I'm like, "Oh my god, I completely forgot about it." Like, I cannot fit another board game in this, so I don't back into a board game. But there's still stuff showing up every once in a while. But comic books aren't as work intensive as a board game.
But a lot of stuff is late on both Indiegogo and Kickstarter that is not having to do comics. That's something that not everybody realizes.
I joined a Facebook group.
Is this something?
I'm sorry, Mark.
Is this something that's going to work out over time, you think? I mean, some people have overstretched the campaigns and they see that. Are we going to go back in the other direction now and things be more on time, you think?
I think that people are going to start holding people's feet to the fire about late books.
But I think most books I back are basically on time. But the problem is the biggest crowdfunders, not Shane Davis, are late with their books. That guy we're drawing a book with a broken elbow, with a pop bicep. You can't criticize him. He popped his bicep.
I got nothing.
Had the doctor set it up so he could draw, so he could finish Inglorious Rex 2. He doesn't get enough credit for that.
I need to address this comment right here before the rumors start. I don't turn into an angry pirate. I turn into a pirate that wants to party. When I threw that log through the windshield, I didn't realize I was like, what? I just picked up a log. I was having fun. I wasn't angry at anybody. I was just a super drunken asshole.
Man,
I'd like to clarify that.
I think the issue is the biggest crowdfunder, and I don't have to say his name, and I don't even have a problem with him. I know others do, is late with all his books all the time. Now, whether you feel like they're worth it or not, that's a different story.
That's individual. That's, if it don't bother you, it don't bother me. That's why I don't talk about it, because I don't care. Like a book could be really, really late.
But that puts the pall of lateness on all of the rest of everybody else. That's all I'm saying.
But
It's
maybe
all
I'm
the things are late,
think
but
that
all
everybody
the
treats
professionals
everybody as an
yeah.
individual. Like because these guys are late, I'm hoping that people going, oh, John Longbox is on time.
Well, that's what I think they do.
But am I being cast aspersions?
Is it going to get better? Is it going to get
No.
better? Are they going to
No.
make a concerted effort to snap back and go in the opposite direction? And
I think
guys like me will get better because
I think some of them won't be. I would if I were Frag, I wouldn't do another book. But I've seen all the layouts to all the pages, and some of them completed pages. It is a work in progress. He is working on it.
I think guys,
Smokey's wrong. They should not be
if
built by
you-
association, because each person is their own business.
right.
So
But
if Graham is always on
Yeah.
time, he should not be slimed by the other guy who's not on time.
right. I think that people that are really into it
Yeah.
are going to understand. Like, okay, Graham is always on time. Alternative books are always on time.
on time, right?
Wolf and Batsy is always on time.
Exactly,
John
Brian
Longbox-
Dowd, Fabrizio, you guys, right?
But I think that that's the inner circle. I think the outer circle would be like, well, the crowdfunders are always late, so I don't.
That's right.
That's right.
So I think guys like me and Fabrizio, are going to have to be on time to win favor or keep favor or whatever the correct term is.
Yeah, I think that's 100% true. Like you said, the people in the know, they know Graham Nolan between and us. But people that are just on the periphery, maybe something pops up. Oh, I'll back a book. I don't know. The last book I only backed one book last year, and it's it's been a year and late, so I'm gonna wait this time. And I don't know what percentage of people that is, but it's definitely a chunk. There's no doubt.
I just joined a Facebook group called the Indie Comic Creators Group. Somebody invited me to the group, and the very first post, I joined this group. Congratulations! It's Fund My Comic is Nazis. I wouldn't use that, so I just posted. My very first post was, dude, I did pretty good on Fund My Comic. I did next to nothing on Indiegogo. Kickstarter, I did all right. I said, but Nazis. I said, who's accused? Where's your proof that we're Nazis? I and I explained everything about how Luke helped me. I messed up.
White heterosexual males clinging to your guns and your God. What else?
So I'm waiting to get kicked out of this group. I don't know if that's just some lunatic, but that was all day just defending on my comic. I'm like, and it's funny because I posted like 18 seconds later. Vaughn Coleman liked my post, so I guess he's a member of this group too. But like that kind of stuff, it's like, and then
that's a problem. That might be a bigger problem than later books.
Well, here's the thing, and then I clicked on that guy who made that comic book. It's porn. He's on Kickstarter, and it's literally a porno book that I think is AI. So I don't want to slag him. I don't want to be like, you're a porno book, because that's just going to make me look like a crazy person. But I was just like, Fund My Comics, only 2%. I got personalized service. I got the guy's phone number. I called him up when I had problems. Blah 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 blah. So,
here's my question. I did an experiment. Horace H. Hoover went direct to my store. I'm going to be crowdfunding future books, I think, across the board. Now, is that because I think it's the best current way to sell books? I really do. That doesn't mean it's perfect. Doesn't mean it's great. No. But it is the best.
Right now, it's good. And Fabrizio, I know we talked about this in private. I really think you should crowdfund your next book, and I'll do everything
I think you should
to help you promote, because I think people like an event, and you're gonna go on this channel and your book, and plus, I really like your book, and I want it to succeed.
It's a lot of work promoting, but you got to get out there and beat the payment. And
I also
talking about Dan Fraga, he was stalled out at like 53, a little over 50,000 for a long time, and it looked like it topped out. And then I was surprised he went 100, and I think he wound up around 260,000, which is amazing over time. But I agree with Marcus. I wouldn't crowdfund another book, but now if he wants to, nothing's stopping him. But I guarantee you, his numbers will reflect it, because of the lateness of the first book. I don't think he'll get the support.
I don't want to speak for him, but like I'll see him in April, and he'll give me a big hug, and he's giving me, oh, you like this pen? Here, I have an extra one. He gives me pens and stuff. Like, I wouldn't crowdfund a book, and I tell him, gee, I wouldn't crowdfund the book, and he's embarrassed by it. That's why you don't see him all over YouTube anymore, because he's kind of embarrassed by this. Yeah. He's not out there going to baseball games while the book isn't done. Which, by the way, you could go to baseball games. Just don't tell anybody. Yeah. You can have a life. God bless you.
That's another thing.
Tell anybody.
Again, I'm not mentioning names because I don't want to be a drama channel. But when I see somebody with a crowdfunding campaign and a bad reputation posted pictures of himself buying expensive ticket items, it doesn't look good, guys.
I agree with you. That I agree with you.
And I
agree with you.
I didn't. I mean, I wanted to take that money out and pay my mortgage, and I was like, I don't even want to talk about it. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, everything's great.
Well, on Fund My Comic, you can do that. On Fund My Comic, you can get the money in like 5 days.
Exactly unfortunately, I set it up so that the money came instantly, so it was dripping. I set up on Fund My Comic. Now it's set up. I don't get paid at all. I have to manually withdraw the money. I like it better because it sits in that account and I don't touch it and I forget about it.
You should call an escrow account like a lawyer. That's how they do it.
Answer this question for multiple.
Well, I like that.
I'm not backing the next EBS book. The guy
No.
personally insulted me, and
I
I don't
like
remember-
I like that option though, John, where you can draw it out like after the first 5 days, because what I did is I turned around and I paid artists, to do me some more artwork to put
Right.
up on the campaign and,
Yeah, absolutely.
further along
this-
the book. So
when
That's
I'm
what the
talking
book is
about,
for.
I'm more organized. So, so inside how the sausage is made, Renzo hands in paperwork, or Fabrizio, he does my ad. And now it's time to pay Fabrizio. I withdraw the money from Stripe and I send it right to Fabrizio. You know what I mean? And I don't touch that money. I don't know if Stripe accumulates interest, but if you put it in my account, it accumulates me spending it on nonsense. So it's better there.
So what have we learned? Send all our money to Fabrizio. He will, manage it
Go
well.
for it. There is
Go
one thing
for
too about like being late on campaigns. Outside of the fact that you promised to have it done and you're messing around. Outside of that, and getting as many books out as you can as possible. But to me, like the best experience of reading a book or a comic or anything really is if you can shorten the time between seeing that cover at the comic book shop for the first time of your life, you buy it and you go home and read it. Because the longer you wait and think about it and see ads, essentially your expectations are all over the place.
Right.
And they can fill in things that aren't there, and then when they get it, it doesn't match. Now they've had a year to sort of like guess what this thing is about. So
Not only that, we fool ourselves by it's a comic book. It's an impulse item. Ultimately, it's a child's toy.
Luxury.
You know what I mean? Like nobody needs a comic
Luxury
book.
item, really.
It's a luxury item.
Non-essential.
So you got to strike while the iron is hot. You know what I mean? Like,
yep.
See, Smokey the Concat, that's the problem. It's not Walmart. It's not Walmart delivering TV, and it's not a TV. It's an artwork. And artwork doesn't always go. We're artists, and we're crafting something.
Right.
So we hope to make that deadline. So if I make a comic now, and it's going to be 64-page comic, and I say it's going to be ready for January 1st next year, like 2026, January 1st, I'm late after that. It's hopefully I will be able to do it the whole year. Now, life happens. You had a broken neck, and you got everything done anyway. I fell one time.
drawing.
But that is wrong. It's not. It's a product, but it's a piece of artwork. It's a little different than just Walmart and a TV. And by the way, Walmart does deliver stuff late.
Right.
The whole business of
And Murphy's Law, if I hire Marcus to
they
color it,
late.
and something goes wrong, if Fabrizio something goes wrong, maybe he has a death in the family and he can't letter it and he's halfway through and there's a delay. I mean, this is not a science.
But we have a
where you get the
community
same
we could
result
get
every
help for
time.
that too.
I
We had one
think
guy
everybody's-
who
absolutely.
asked for help, and now he's out.
Everybody's pretty much saying what I'm about to say. Like, okay, we're pretty forgiving, and we understand everything. Now, if my comic book is 8 months late, and I'm talking crap about everybody else, and talking about how I'm the best, and I'm the best writer, and I'm the best writer, and everybody else sucks, and then you get my comic, and it's not that good, you're like, what the hell? But if I'm like, dude, I broke my neck and I'm sorry and I'm trying my best, and I bit off more than I could chew, and I swear to God, I'm going to do this. I'm going to give you a couple extra pages. I think people are pretty forgiving.
I think so. So.
But if you're spending 6 hours a day talking crap about somebody else, and you're 5 years late, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. And even the guy.
It's the old adage that somebody wrote a long time ago: "Do unto others as you want them to do unto you." If you want,
but I agree with you on that,
show
John.
mercy.
I agree with you on that. I'm saying, when does that start? Like, so I wouldn't be say doing fun. Well, maybe you could do fun things. It depends on your schedule, but I wouldn't show people. Like, that's just the mistake. I wouldn't show people. You know what I'm saying? Oh, I'm going on a vacation in Hawaii and my book is late, so you can't do that. That's an extreme example. I agree 100%. whenever I see certain creators sit there with his dad at the baseball game, I'm like, oh, you could go with your dad to the baseball game, but don't tell me you're going to your dad with the baseball game.
Or
Why would you do
crowdfund a
that?
trip to Disney and then not go.
I mean, it's like calling off
Well,
of work like you're
Marcus, it's
sick
the
and then getting
internet.
busted.
You know, you're in a way you're living your life vicariously
Yeah, well,
on the internet, and you know, there's been a lot of robberies because of that. It's like, look, I'm at the restaurant eating a salad, and they take
that's
a
right.
picture of
That's
what
right.
they're
That's
eating.
another thing. Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Crazy.
Like Dan, you were talking about Dan Fraga.
Sorry
Dan
for breezy. Huh?
No,
I'll
good.
still back Dan Fraga's books, even though he's late. First off, because he's a genuinely nice guy, and second
Yeah.
off, he's not talking crap on the internet, making fun of other people. You know,
And
I don't know what's going on. Like, does he have family with illnesses? Is he ill? I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. First off, I met the guy and he was nothing but a nice
you
guy.
did get to meet him, right? I thought so. He's
Yeah.
a super nice guy. He had to have back surgery. His hands were shaking like this.
Right. So, but that's one thing. But let us know. But like when you say that you're gonna comics gonna be out in 6 months, that's a contract. You know.
Right. You're right.
You kind of, you made a deal because I got no problems now. People are buying my comics after it's in demand because they know it exists.
Right.
Like one of the guys that worked when I was like, oh yeah, I'm giving him this card. I'm like, hey, you scan this QR code and it brings you to the website and you can buy the comic and it'll be out in 6 months. He goes, so you want me to buy air? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I had no answer to that. He goes, I tell you what, when you got this comic book, you come to work and you sell it to me.
Yeah.
That's the way the normies think.
Well,
So-
I don't think if we're crowdfunding books, it's not a monthly book like Marvel.
Merry
DC.
Christmas.
It's not
Happy
even
New
a
Year.
bi-monthly book. There's some people that are, without saying names, are trying to do 12 books a year, and we'll see if any of them are any good. That's really ambitious. And then you're asking a lot if it's $20 a book or even $15 a book you want your fans to buy at that price. When we're buying this book here is 20 cents. And that was up from 15 cents not longer before, right? So you're asking a monthly book, you're asking for 20 cents. And back then, that's still cheap, And at 35 cents and 65 cents, that's monthly book. But $5, $10 for every single month for the book is a lot of money. That's a lot of money.
I mean,
So-
the one thing that can bring down cost, I don't think shipping's ever going to change. To be honest, that's it's built in, and
It's
just
going to
gonna go
change.
up.
It's going to go higher.
Right.
Well, yeah. I mean,
I spent $2,000 just to ship my book, and mine
Right.
wasn't really that much of a success.
but the
Wow.
one thing that can
And how many
potentially
did
change.
you ship out, John?
I don't know, but I the pirate ship kept the thing. I spent $1,900 and something dollars on shipping.
Yeah. But digital printing has the potential for getting substantially cheaper. So
Right.
even though it is cheap, that is the one thing that, like, tomorrow, very much, whether it's using AI or new machinery or new tech, it could really decrease the cost. I don't know if that'll ever happen, or it could be 5 or 10 years. But right now, that's the only thing that could potentially bring down the price of our books.
Well, right now, it isn't a comic book or comic book drama that's annoying me in my feed. It's the HB1B thing, the H1B thing that I'm going to have to start blocking people because I don't want to hear it about it right now. So with the engineers and whatever.
Yeah,
it is.
well, as
Yeah,
an
that's a little
engineer,
aggravating.
I definitely have opinions on it, and I was getting very frustrated. So I'm like, I gotta
It's
get
been
off.
frustrating. My son is an
I gotta
engineer from
get
Tesla,
shit to-
and he's doing fine. And they headhunted him, and people load up. This is what all the engineers make, and how come they do this? I don't know. I'm not in that business, but I'm not upset about it yet.
Yeah, let's steer away from this
February
topic.
20th.
I don't want to talk.
Nothing has happened yet.
Keep it
Yeah.
keep it comics.
Yeah, nothing has happened yet. It's not after January 20th. Complain all you want.
So
None of these people are in charge of anything.
you know what? I just realized it's 10:30 and I got to wake up at 4:30 for work.
Oh.
So
All right,
we'll start
We'll
with
just stay up all night and then go to work. We'll stay.
I'm
not feeling it.
4:30.
I gotta go.
anything you want to sell, anything you want to shill right now.
I'll go. I'm Fabrizio Aiello, Horace H. Hoover. Issues 1 through 3 available on my website. Check them out. I got some resin models and other things on Etsy as well, but all my links are in Twitter. And I have a YouTube channel at Unhallowed Art. Thanks for having me, John. It was great talking to everybody.
You're one of my favorite
Thanks,
people
Chad.
to talk to. And here, go there. I highly recommend Horace H. Hoover. You could get up to 1 to 3. It's one of my favorite comics out right now.
Thank you.
So much, he's in my comic.
Yes.
Rex, you got anything?
Yeah, I just celebrated 3 years of streaming on my channel today. I'm streamed daily, 4 o'clock Shadow, 4 Central every day. If you can't watch it at 4 Central, watch it on replay. We do it every day. Coming up on the 1,000th episode, January 22nd. So exciting about that. We're about, I think today's was like 976, something like that. I lose count without looking at the calendar. I've got a Devil Flyer ash can over on Indiegogo right now, a few more left, and I have a Devil Flyer prequel magazine over on Fund My Comic. You can get it over there. That's about it. You can find me on X and all these other platforms.
And Marcus, what about you? You got anything you want to show?
Yeah, I'm on X if you want to hear my nonsense. And it's only comics after all, but I will be on the studio tomorrow at 7 p.m. We are drawing Cable, and we basically make fun of the Don for 3 hours. And we need people to sign up there. It's stream and StreamYard is getting expensive. So we need he's need the ability to kind of make a little dough out of that. So I'll put the link in if anybody wants to watch us draw. Some of you get to watch me, just I get to show my drawing, but the way I'm not set up with some of us. And the Omar Glitch and Duck Bacon are fantastic artists, and Don's a fantastic artist. John has stopped by, and it's always a good time.
Yeah, it's fun.
And we make fun of each other, and nobody takes it too seriously. And we wait for Mama Donna to make fun of Don.
Yeah, she's a sniper.
She's really.
But I got to go to bed. I didn't realize it was this late. I was really engrossed in the conversation. Thank you, everybody. Happy New Year.
Happy New
Sunday.
Congratulations on your comic. Long live the patriarchy.
Yep. So this Sunday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard, I'll be showing Horace H. Hoover #3, and then I don't really know what I'm going to be doing. I think next week I don't have that much stuff scheduled, and then after New Year's it's back to normal. So thanks a lot, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye-bye.